My child, this might be my final words to you. I say that not to frighten you, but because truth spoken too late becomes regret instead of rescue. I am running out of time, not because my love is ending, but because moments like this do not wait forever. And you still don't know what really happened, do you? You still don't see why things unfolded the way they did, why doors closed without explanation, why silence stretched longer than you thought you could endure. You blamed yourself. You blamed circumstances. You thought you missed something, but you never stopped long enough to hear me explain. That is why I am speaking now, with urgency, with closeness, with a weight that should not be ignored. You think this is just another message. I know that thought passed through your mind. You have heard many words before. You have listened and moved on. You have felt stirred and then returned to routine. But you need to hear this before it's too late, before distraction steals what clarity is trying to deliver. Do not turn away now. Do not tell yourself you will come back later. Later is where understanding goes quiet. Later is where courage fades. Later is where you forget how close this moment felt. I have been trying to reach you again and again. Through restlessness you couldn't explain. Through questions that surfaced at night. Through moments when everything went quiet inside you for no reason. Those were not accidents. Those were invitations. And this moment is not guaranteed to return in the same way. I will not force you, but I will be honest with you. When I speak, it matters. When I call your attention, it is because something needs to be seen now, not someday. You have been living without the full picture. You saw pieces of your story and assumed you understood the whole. You thought what happened was loss, when it was interruption. You thought what hurt you was abandonment, when it was protection. You thought the delay meant you were forgotten, when it meant I was holding you back from something you were not ready to face yet. But you filled the silence with your own conclusions, and those conclusions weighed you down. I know you learned to cope by not asking too many questions. You learned to survive by staying busy, by staying guarded, by staying distracted. Stillness began to feel dangerous because stillness brings truth to the surface. And truth felt painful because you did not yet have the context to understand it. That is why I waited. Not because I was distant, but because your heart needed time to grow strong enough to receive without breaking. But now I'm speaking plainly. Not loudly but clearly. This is not entertainment. This is not comfort alone. This is understanding knocking on the door of your awareness. You sensed it the moment you paused. Something in you recognized that this felt different. Heavy. Closer. More personal. That recognition is not coincidence. That is discernment awakening. You are not here by chance. You did not stumble into this moment. You were guided here, gently but intentionally. I have been patient with you, but patience does not mean endless delay. There are seasons where listening matters more than effort, where awareness matters more than endurance. You are standing in one of those seasons now. I know fear tries to rise when you hear words like final or too late. But listen to me carefully. I am not saying this to condemn you. I am saying this to awaken you. Love warns before danger. Love speaks before loss. Love does not stay silent when clarity can still change the course of things. If I did not care deeply, I would let you drift. But I care too much for that. You have wondered why the same feelings keep returning, why certain struggles repeat even when you try to move forward. You thought you were failing. You thought you were weak. But repetition is not punishment. It is truth asking to be seen. And truth will keep knocking until it is acknowledged. This moment is one of those knocks. Do not underestimate how close you came to missing this. Not because you are careless, but because life trained you to move quickly, to scroll past, to avoid lingering. The world rewards speed, not presence. But presence is where my voice is heard. You slowed down just enough. That is why you are still here. Comment, Father, you are my greatest joy, my guiding light if He has brought peace and hope into your life. I am not angry with your hesitation. I understand it. You have been disappointed before. You learn not to lean in too far. You learn to protect yourself from hope. But protection has turned into distance, and distance has turned into confusion. I am not asking you to abandon wisdom. I am asking you to stop hiding from clarity. This message is not here to overwhelm you. It is here to orient you, to help you see that your life has not been random, that your pain has not been meaningless, that your waiting has not been wasted. But understanding only comes if you stay long enough to receive it. Turning away now would not erase my love, but it would delay your peace. I am running out of time not because I am weak, but because moments of awakening are sacred. They are not forced. They are offered. And when they are ignored, life continues teaching through harder ways. I would rather teach you through truth than through exhaustion. You have been strong for too long without understanding why you had to be. You have endured without clarity. That is not how I want you to keep living. I want you to walk with awareness, not confusion. With trust, not constant questioning. With rest, not endless strain. This might be my final words to you in this form, in this moment, because once you see clearly, you cannot unsee. Once you understand, you cannot pretend you do not. Awareness changes responsibility. And I trust you enough to speak honestly now. Do not turn away. Not because you are afraid of missing something dramatic, but because you deserve understanding. You deserve to know what really happened. You deserve to see your story with truth instead of self-blame. You deserve peace that comes from clarity, not just relief from distraction. I have been trying to reach you again and again, not to pressure you, but to prepare you. This moment is gentle, but it is serious. It is loving, but it is direct. It is patient, but it is urgent. Stay with me. Listen without rushing. Let the noise quiet. You are closer than you think, and this moment matters more than you know. I am speaking with urgency now, not because I am angry, not because danger is chasing you, and not because I want to frighten your heart. I am speaking this way because time and opportunity are connected in ways you do not always see. I need you to understand that love does not always whisper softly. Sometimes love leans close, looks you in the eyes, and says, "Listen now." This is one of those moments. Urgency does not always mean something bad is about to happen. Sometimes it means something important is about to be missed if you do not slow down and pay attention. You have been taught to associate urgency with panic, with pressure, with fear. But I am not panicking, and I am not pressuring you. I am inviting you. There is a difference. Fear rushes. Love clarifies. Fear threatens. Love wounds. What I am offering you now is not a threat, and it is not condemnation. It is a final invitation shaped by care, patience, and truth. I am speaking urgently because clarity does not knock forever. Moments of divine clarity are rare. They are not constant, and they are not endless. They appear when a heart is ready, when awareness has matured, when listening becomes possible without resistance. You have lived through seasons where clarity would have overwhelmed you, where truth would have been misinterpreted as rejection or punishment. That is why I waited. But waiting does not mean silence forever. Waiting means speaking at the right time. And this is that time. Please support our channel. Our work is to bring happiness into your life and inspire devotion to God. If you would like to support us, you can donate through Super Thanks. You may wonder why now feels different. Why these words feel heavier, closer, more serious. It is because you are standing at the edge of understanding. You are not being pulled by fear. You are being invited by awareness. Something in you already knows that this moment matters, even if you cannot explain why. That knowing is not anxiety. It is discernment waking up. I am not telling you that this is your last chance at love. My love does not expire. I am telling you that this is a moment of alignment, and alignment requires response. When truth is revealed and ignored, life does not punish you. It repeats the lesson in harder ways. I would rather speak to you now with clarity than allow confusion to keep teaching you through exhaustion. I am speaking urgently because you have reached a place where you can finally hear without filtering everything through fear. You are not listening to escape pain anymore. You are listening to understand it. That shift matters. It changes what you can receive. It changes how deeply truth can settle instead of bouncing off guarded walls. I know you are tired of warnings that sound dramatic. I know you have learned to be skeptical of urgency because the world uses it to manipulate attention. But my urgency is not about control. It is about care. I am not asking you to act impulsively. I am asking you to be present. Presence is the doorway through which clarity enters. There are moments in life that feel ordinary on the outside but carry weight on the inside. They do not announce themselves with noise. They do not demand immediate action. They simply ask to be honored. This is one of those moments. If you treat it casually, nothing will explode. But something will quietly pass by, and you will feel it later as restlessness, as repetition, as the sense that you almost understood something important but let it slip away. I am speaking urgently because you have already walked through too many cycles. You have endured confusion long enough. You have questioned yourself long enough. You have lived with half answers and quiet self-blame long enough. This moment is not here to accuse you of missing things. It is here to help you stop missing yourself. You think urgency means you must decide everything now. It does not. It means you must listen now. Understanding begins with listening, not with action. I am not demanding a leap. I'm offering a pause long enough for truth to surface without being drowned out by noise. I have watched you rush past moments before, not because you did not care, but because you were overwhelmed. Overwhelm trains you to keep moving so you do not have to feel. What constant movement numbs discernment. That is why I am slowing you down now. Not to trap you, but to steady you. This is not fear-based. Fear says, do this or else. Love says, please listen before you hurt yourself again. I am not warning you of disaster. I am warning you of repetition. Repetition that drains joy. Repetition that blurs purpose. repetition that makes life feel heavy without clear reason. I am speaking urgently because you are ready to understand what you could not understand before. Readiness is not about intelligence or strength. It is about humility. And humility has been growing in you through waiting, disappointment, and reflection. You are less defensive now, less certain, but more open. That openness is precious. I do not want it wasted. This message is a final invitation in the sense that it marks a line between unconscious living and conscious walking. Once you see clearly, you cannot pretend you do not. Once you understand, you carry responsibility to yourself. Not a burden, but an awareness. That awareness changes how you move forward. I am not saying this to rush you into decisions you are not ready to make. I am saying this to help you recognize that this moment deserves your full attention. Not multitasking. Not half listening. Not playing what comes next while I am still speaking. Just presence. There are doors that do not force themselves open. They wait to be noticed. There are truths that do not shout. They wait to be received. If they are ignored, they do not chase you. They simply remain where they are, waiting for another season that may or may not come soon. I am not threatening you with loss. I am offering you understanding. Understanding brings peace. Peace brings movement. Movement brings life back into places that felt stagnant. That is why I am speaking now. You have survived without clarity long enough. You do not need to keep living that way. You are not being corrected. You are being invited to see. And seeing changes everything gently, quietly, steadily. This urgency is not about fear of punishment. It is about respect for timing. Timing is a gift. And this timing was prepared for you. So stay with me. Not because you are afraid of missing something dramatic, but because you deserve to receive what is being offered. This is seriousness without panic. Love without pressure. Warning without condemnation. This is me saying, listen now, because understanding is here. You still don't know what really happened to you. I say that gently, not to shame you, but to free you from the weight of conclusions you carried without having the full truth. You lived through moments that hurt deeply, and because pain demands explanation, you gave those moments meanings that felt logical at the time. You told yourself you were abandoned. You told yourself you failed. You told yourself you were delayed because you were not enough. But those explanations were never the full story. They were the best you could do with the information you had then. Now I am asking you to let me show you what you could not see before. There were seasons when you felt left behind. People moved on. Opportunities passed. Silence stretched longer than you expected. You waited for answers that did not come, and waiting slowly turned into doubt. You assumed absence where there was actually protection. You assumed neglect where there was careful restraint. You did not know what was happening behind the scenes because protection is often invisible to the one being protected. You believed I stepped back because things fell apart. You believed I withdrew because doors closed. You believed I went quiet because you disappointed me. But I never left you. I never turned away. I never stopped paying attention. What you experienced as distance was me standing between you and harm you could not yet recognize. What felt like abandonment was actually my hand holding you back from something that would have wounded you more deeply than you were ready to endure. You thought failure followed you. You looked at outcomes that did not match your hopes and decided you had failed the test. But what you call failure was often interruption. I interrupted paths that would have drained you. I interrupted relationships that would have shaped you in ways that conflicted with who you truly are. I interrupted plans that looked good on the surface but would have cost you your peace. Interruption feels like loss when you cannot see what it saved you from. There were moments when you were convinced you missed your chance. You replayed conversations, decisions, timing, wondering what you could have done differently. You carried regret like proof that you were careless or slow. But I tell you this now, you did not miss what was meant for you. What truly belongs to you does not slip past unnoticed. It waits. It aligns. It meets you at the right moment, even if that moment feels later than you hope. You misread silence as rejection. You thought my quiet meant disapproval. You believed that if I truly cared, things would have moved faster, felt clearer, or hurt less. But silence was not absence. Silence was space. Space for you to grow without pressure. Space for wounds to heal without being rushed. Space for your identity to separate from outcomes so that you would not confuse success with worth. There were spiritual moments you never recognized because they did not feel dramatic. Moments when you were guided away from places you wanted to stay. Moments when discomfort pushed you to leave situations you tried to justify. Moments when peace faded in environments that once felt safe. Those were not random feelings. They were warnings spoken softly so you would not feel forced. You did not always listen then, and that is not a condemnation. It is simply part of learning discernment. Say, I belong to you completely, Jesus, if you found your purpose and true identity in Him. You survived things that could have broken you completely. You thought survival was just luck or stubbornness. But there were limits placed on what could touch you. There were unseen boundaries around your mind, your heart, your spirit. You were protected in ways you cannot fully measure. That protection did not remove pain, but it prevented destruction. You came close to edges you did not fall from, and you never knew why. Now you are beginning to see. You thought the delay meant you were being overlooked. You assumed others were chosen while you were passed by. But delay was not about preference. It was about readiness. There were truths you could not have handled earlier without misinterpreting them. There were responsibilities you could not have carried without losing yourself. I delayed not because you were weak, but because you were valuable. You interpreted resistance as a sign to quit. But resistance often appears when direction matters most. You faced a confusion because clarity was being earned, not withheld. You faced questions because your faith was deepening, not failing. You faced repeated lessons because growth was happening gradually, not because you were stuck. You believed pain meant something went wrong, but pain often means something mattered. You invested your heart. You cared deeply. You hoped honestly. When those hopes were challenged, it hurt. That pain does not mark you as foolish. It marks you as alive. And I was present with you in that pain, even when you believed you were enduring it alone. There were hidden moments when I redirected you quietly. When plans fell through at the last minute. When opportunities dissolved unexpectedly. When people exited your life without explanation. You filled those gaps with self-blame or confusion. But those moments were not punishment. They were alignment. You were being guided away from futures that would have required you to become someone you were never meant to be. You did not know that your heart was being preserved. You did not know that your spirit was being guarded from bitterness, pride, or despair that could have settled in permanently if things had gone differently. You did not know that the road you wanted would have hardened you, while the road you were placed on softened you in necessary ways. You thought you were losing time, but time was working for you, not against you. While you waited, your values clarified. Your priorities shifted. Your sensitivity to truth increased. You became less impressed by appearances and more attentive to substance. That change was essential. Without it, you would have chased things that looked promising but felt empty once reached. You still don't know how many times you were spared from deeper wounds. How many conversations did not happen. How many decisions were delayed just long enough. How many paths closed quietly. Protection rarely announces itself. It does not leave obvious markers. It simply ensures you arrive intact, even if tired. You thought something was wrong with you because things did not move smoothly. But smooth paths do not always lead to meaningful places. The uneven road taught you how to listen, how to wait, how to reflect. It taught you that answers are not always immediate and that truth often unfolds slowly. I am telling you this now because you are finally ready to see it without resentment. Earlier, this truth would have felt like dismissal of your pain. Now, it can feel like explanation. Explanation does not erase hurt, but it redeems it. It allows you to release the belief that you were abandoned, forgotten, were corrected through suffering. You were never abandoned. You were guided. You never failed the way you thought you did. You were interrupted for your own good. You were never ignored. You were carefully watched over. What really happened to you was not loss without meaning. It was protection without explanation. It was guidance without force. It was love working quietly while you assumed it was gone. Now that you know this, something can shift inside you. You can stop blaming yourself for things you did not control. You can stop carrying shame for delays that were intentional. You can stop questioning your worth based on outcomes that were never meant to define you. Understanding changes how you remember, and how you remember shapes how you move forward. You are not behind. You were being led. You were not forgotten. You were being protected. And now, finally, you can see it. There is truth I could not tell you until now, not because I wanted to withhold it, not because I feared your questions, but because your heart was still growing into the place where truth could be received without harming you. I need you to understand this gently. Truth is powerful. When it arrives too early, it can frighten instead of free. It can inflate pride or deepen confusion instead of bringing peace. I waited not to keep you in the dark, but to keep you safe. There were things you wanted to know years ago. You asked for explanations. You asked for clarity. You asked why certain things were happening and where your life was going. But if I had answered you fully then, you would have misunderstood what I was saying. You would have heard it through fear, through urgency, through insecurity. You might have rushed ahead of me or pulled away in panic. Your heart was sincere, but it was not yet settled. You were still measuring yourself by outcomes. You were still tying your word to progress. You were still comparing your journey to others. Truth spoken into that space would have sounded like pressure instead of guidance. It would have felt like demand instead of direction. So I waited. Not because I did not trust you, but because I cared about how deeply the truth would land. Some truths require humility to receive. Others require patience. Others require compassion for yourself that you had not yet learned. Earlier, you were still learning how to sit with uncertainty without needing to escape it. You were still learning how to listen without trying to control the outcome. You were still learning how to stay present when answers were delayed. That learning mattered more than information. You think maturity comes from knowing more. Often it comes from waiting longer. Waiting strips away illusion. It removes the need to impress. It quiets the urge to rush. Over time, waiting taught you how to hear without reacting, how to reflect without judgment, how to accept without resistance. Those skills are not dramatic, but they are essential. Without them, truth becomes overwhelming instead of life-giving. I did not tell you everything earlier because you would have tried to carry it alone. You would have taken responsibility for things that were not yours to manage. You would have tried to fix, predict, or accelerate what needed to unfold naturally. You were already carrying too much. I would not add weight to a heart that was still learning how to rest. There were also truths that would have fed pride if revealed too soon. You might have misunderstood calling as status. You might have confused responsibility with importance. You might have measured yourself above others instead of alongside them. Waiting taught you empathy. It taught you that everyone carries unseen burdens. It softened your judgments. It grounded your sense of self. You needed to learn how to be small before you could be entrusted with what feels big. You needed to learn how to listen before you could lead. You needed to learn how to receive love without earning it before you could reflect it without conditions. These lessons do not come through explanation. They come through experience. There were moments when you felt ready, when you told yourself you could handle the truth now. But readiness is not about confidence. It is about posture. Confidence can rush. Posture can receive. You were confident before. Now you are open. The difference matters. You are less interested now in being right and more interested in being honest. You are less concerned with appearances and more concerned with peace. You are less driven by urgency and more guided by awareness. That shift did not happen overnight. It happened through disappointment, through reflection, through letting go of expectations that no longer served you. I am telling you the truth now because you can hold it without turning it into pressure. You can hear it without feeling accused. You can receive it without fear. You are not listening to prove anything anymore. You are listening to understand. That is why now is the right time. Earlier, truth would have felt like a test. Now it feels like clarity. Earlier, it would have sounded like a demand. Now it sounds like an invitation. Earlier, it would have made you anxious. Now it can make you steady. Timing changes everything. You needed to learn that not knowing everything does not mean you are unsafe. You needed to learn that waiting does not mean you are behind. You needed to learn that silence does not mean abandonment. Those lessons prepared your heart to hear what I am saying now without misinterpreting it. There were also people and situations that needed to move out of your life before truth could settle in. Voices that would have twisted it. Environments that would have pressured you to perform. Expectations that would have distorted meaning. Waiting allowed those influences to fade so that when truth arrived, it could land in a quieter space. You have grown in ways that are invisible to others. You have learned to pause before reacting. You have learned to question without spiraling. You have learned to sit with discomfort instead of numbing it. These are signs of maturity. They are the foundation that truth rests on. I am not revealing things now because I withheld them unfairly before. I am revealing them now because you can finally hear them without being overwhelmed. You can finally receive them without trying to control the outcome. You can finally trust me without needing immediate proof. Understanding is arriving now because your heart is ready to hold it with humility and peace. You no longer need truth to justify yourself. You need it to guide you. That difference is everything. You were not late to this understanding. You arrived exactly when you were meant to. Earlier would have been too soon. Later would have been unnecessary. Now is right. This is not information for curiosity. This is clarity for alignment. And alignment requires maturity. You have grown into that place through waiting, through endurance, through reflection. Nothing was wasted. Now you can see without fear. Now you can hear without panic. Now you can understand without pride. That is why I am speaking this truth now and not before. You are ready. If you continue to ignore my voice, what follows is not sudden punishment, not anger unleashed, not love withdrawn. What follows is repetition. It is delay. It is the quiet wearing down of the heart through lessons that keep returning because they have not yet been received. I want to speak to you about this with firmness and tenderness together, because you deserve truth without fear and clarity without condemnation. When I speak, I do not shout to control you. I nudge to guide you. My voice often comes as a quiet knowing, a gentle discomfort, a repeated thought you cannot shake, a sense that something is off even when everything looks fine on the surface. Ignoring that voice does not make it disappear. It only makes life louder in other ways. The message stays the same, but the method changes. You have felt this before. The same emotions resurfacing. The same inner questions returning. The same tired feeling of asking yourself why you are here again. That is not because you are weak or slow. It is because truth does not force itself on you. It waits. And when it is ignored, it waits through repetition. Emotional exhaustion often comes not from doing too much, but from resisting what you already know. There is a weariness that comes from carrying tension inside, from silencing conviction, from telling yourself something will pass when it is asking to be faced. That exhaustion settles deep. It makes everything feel heavier than it should. Joy feels distant. Motivation fades. Even rest does not restore you the way it used to. This is not because I have left you. It is because alignment has been delayed. Peace flows naturally when you walk in truth. When truth is ignored, peace does not disappear, but it becomes harder to access. You begin to feel spiritually stagnant, not because you stopped believing, but because you stopped listening. Right, yes, Lord, I surrender every part of me if you've laid all your worries and dreams at His feet. And share this video.